no backup.
Apartment.
Hold on.
The two would talk online for some time, with Gabriel eventually moving into Steven's apartment.
See, bruh, I don't know whose household they was raised in to be like, yo, you could talk to somebody on the internet. Y'all hit it off. You move in. They skipped everything.
Really 6-year time frame that I've been making these videos, I've discussed many a bizarre internet story. Insane online happenings taking place from 4chan all the way to Facebook.
True.
But there's one online realm that I've
too,
yet to touch, and it arguably holds some of the internet's darkest stories. Dating apps and dating websites.
Facts.
From Tinder to Bumble.
Hey, if y'all got any dating apps, let me know down below. Me personally never had one. Okay.
To Match, Plenty of Fish, and Grindr, online dating and the use of these pseudo-social media apps to find romantic partnership has become ubiquitous in the modern age. For better or for worse, I'll leave that to another YouTuber to answer. But what's undeniable is that these apps have made it easier for deranged criminals to gain access to new victims. From a psychopathic killer on Match.com to a young woman using Plenty of Fish to facilitate a robbery and an inhuman serial killer who used Grindr to bait his victims, these are the monsters of online dating.
Nah, they are tweaking. Not gonna lie, I be on Tinder to troll. How you be
I
trolling?
want to give a
Tinder?
big thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video.
Oh, yeah, shout out to Skillshare. You know what I'm saying? Link in his bio. No.
Was supposed to be.
All right,
Exploring your creativity today.
All right, let's get it.
He was supposed to be her perfect match, but he almost cost her her life. And today, a Las Vegas woman is talking to Fox 5 about how a man she met through the popular dating website Match.com
That's
tried
what I'm
to
saying,
kill
man.
her.
Our first story involves a 50-year-old real estate agent who used Match.com to find romantic partnership. However, her foray into online dating would prove to be disastrous after she crosses paths with one of the most psychopathic men in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Bro, first of all, I see his picture pop up. If I'm a lady, I'm sorry. Well, what is it to get rid of them? Swipe left? Swiping left. Put them in the dumpster. No cap.
This story begins back in the summer of 2010 with 50-year-old Las Vegas resident and real estate agent Mary Kay Beckman. At this point in Mary Kay's life, she had just recently got over the death of a longtime partner that happened the year prior, and she felt emotionally ready to get back into the dating scene again. So after recommendations from friends, she decides to give online dating a shot and creates an account on Match.com. She sets up her account, uploads some photos, and patiently waits for a compatible match. And about 2 months later in September, Mary Kay thought she found that match when she stumbled across the profile of 52-year-old Wade Mitchell.
Okay, let's just scan his profile real quick, chat. All right, it says yes. They live away from home. Oh, cause have kids. Okay, want kids? No, but it's okay. My partner has kids. White Caucasian, athletic tone, 5'9". You know what I'm saying? Faith, I'll tell you later. Oh no, that you're done. You're done. You're done. Why are you playing games on your on your profile?
Ridley. Wade Ridley claimed to work as a professional golf caddy, and Mary Kay, being a golfer herself and finding the man physically attractive, she was drawn to the guy. And after texting back and forth with the man for several days, she found herself feeling comfortable enough to go on a date with him. On September 25th, Mary Kay and Wade met up at a local Italian restaurant, and according to Mary Kay, the date went off without a hitch. She described Wade's behavior as gentlemanly and respectful. She thought there might be some potential here, so she decided to go on more dates with the guy. The two would continue dating, going on a variety of outings throughout the following week, even going golfing together with Mary Kay, introducing Wade to her friends in the process. But just as Mary Kay found herself falling head over heels for the guy, red flags began revealing themselves. As the dates progressed and the two spent more time together, Mary Kay noted that Mr. Ridley's demeanor shifted from confident to irritable and paranoid at times. As a real estate agent, Mary Kay would receive numerous text alerts and calls from clients. This prompted irrational suspicion on behalf of Wade Ridley, as on several occasions he angrily demanded to see Mary Kay's phone, accusing her of talking to other men.
Am I the black top G? Low key? All right, look, and they not hitting me with no charges, all right? I'm going to teach y'all how to really, you know what I'm saying? Listen. Holla Tate? Nah, that's nuts.
And on Match.com. And at one point, Mary Kay claims that she caught the man rifling through her purse without permission in a frantic effort to browse through her text messages. Definitely some unacceptable behavior for week 2 of casual dating. With the man's unfounded insecurities and paranoia revealing itself, Mary Kay would decide to call off their dating relationship just 10 days after it started, telling Wade Ridley that things were moving just a little bit too fast for her liking. The man wouldn't handle this rejection well. In the wake of the breakup, Wade Ridley reportedly sent a flood of angry text messages to Mary Kay, accusing her of being a terrible and selfish person. The woman attempted to rationalize with the man and explain her hesitancy in moving forward, but the more she entertained his messages, the more incensed he became. Eventually,
that's why I don't even enter. Somebody start hitting me with those. We ignoring it, break fella. You're done. Hey, we not arguing over here. You can argue with yourself though. You know what I'm saying?
Under advice from friends, she decided to cut all communications with the man and move on with her life. But this wouldn't be the last she would see of Wade Mitchell Ridley, as unbeknownst to her, Wade Ridley had sinister plans for one final meeting.
I'm not meeting that man again.
Arrested him. He said, I was not there to hurt her. I was there to kill her.
Several months later, on January 21st of 2011, Mary Kay Beckman is returning home from a dinner party. After arriving at her residence, she parks her vehicle and heads to the door of her home with keys in hand. But a rustling in the darkness stops her in her tracks. It's at this moment when Wade Mitchell Ridley emerges from the shadows wielding a steak knife. Horrified, Mary Kay begins screaming. Ridley then commences a disturbingly violent attack, charging Mary Kay and stabbing her 10 times and stomping her head in until she stops moving.
She survived?
Believing Mary Kay to be dead, Wade Ridley fled the scene, disappearing into the night.
Yo, imagine you meet a girl for 10 days, all right? You go through her phone. You know what I'm saying? You get angry to the point where you want to... Oh, my God. My man goes over to her crib with the knife. You know what I'm saying? Tries to play Fruit Ninja with her body. And then stump her head. You got to be a sick man, okay?
A neighbor who heard the screams of Mary Kay during the attack called police. After arriving, they find Mary Kay battered and bloodied outside of her home, unconscious but still clinging to life. Mary Kay was taken to the hospital and remained in a coma for the time being.
Now, I'm looking at this picture here. You're on a breathing machine, so you're on a ventilator. You've had respiratory arrest. You have a ventriculostomy in your head.
Yes, there was such severe brain trauma that they had to go in and do the surgery to release the trauma in the blood.
Meanwhile, the apparent Match.com murderer, Wade Mitchell Ridley, is still at large. And with no witnesses to the crime and Mary Kay in a coma, she's not able to testify, and thus Wade Mitchell Ridley isn't named as a suspect for this brutal stabbing.
Hold up, there's got to be like no statute of limitations though. They got to be able to go back and get him.
I think at this point that the man would probably go on the run or go into hiding. But in reality, Wade Ridley's work wasn't finished. Mary Kay was simply Wade's first victim, a completed objective on a kill list that he had created. This list was populated with romantic partners that he had vendettas against for perceived wrongdoings. One name on this list was another woman Ridley had met on Match.com, Ann Simonson. And unfortunately, this North Phoenix woman was targeted as his next victim. On the night of February 10th, Wade Ridley would enter the home of Simonson and attack her using a machete and butcher knife, killing the woman. Wade Ridley then stole Simonson's car keys and fled the scene in the woman's own vehicle, eager to finish his kill list. However, unlike the attack on Mary Kay Beckman, Wade Ridley wouldn't get away scot-free in regard to the killing of Ann Simonson. Turns out, due to previous run-ins with Wade, Simonson had an active restraining order against the man, which immediately prompted law enforcement to name him as a person of interest in regard to the killing of Ann Simonson. Days later, on February 14th, Wade Ridley was taken into police custody, and while under questioning, he would chillingly confess to the Beckman stabbing and to being the killer of Ann Simonson. In regard to Simonson's successful murder, he said, quote, "I just went into a rage." And in regard to the Beckman knife attack, he was quoted as saying, "I wanted her to pay for her attitude, whether it was death or incapacitation or whatever."
Yo, son. Yo, listen. He need to get put in that chair that'd be like, he need one of them, all right? You know what I'm saying? You're done. There's no way. I flew into a rage. Is it crazy? Okay. You had a list. This was not a rage, big fella. This man out here lying.
Wade was later charged with first-degree murder and attempted murder for his respective Match.com attacks. Because Ridley's attacks took place in separate states, he was set to go to trial for these two crimes in separate court systems. The attempted murder trial in Nevada was undergone first in September of 2011, with Wade being found guilty and sentenced to serve 28 to 70 years in state prison. Wade Ridley was scheduled to go on trial for the Arizona murder of Ann Simonson in late 2012, but that homicide trial would never happen, as in May of 2012, Wade Mitchell Ridley took his own life.
Yes, sir! Big sub in the building.
Life in prison, the man never truly facing justice for his Match.com attacks. Miraculously, Mary Kay Beckman would recover from the vicious attack she endured at the hands of Wade Ridley, and she's still a practicing real estate agent to this day. An interesting footnote to this story is that in 2013, Mary Kay actually filed a civil lawsuit against Match.com requesting $10 million in damages, with Beckman and her attorneys essentially alleging that Match.com was liable for allowing a deranged individual like Wade Ridley to run roughshod on their site. But Beckman and her attorneys have struggled to find the company liable in this regard, and there's no reporting that I can
Biddies in the building. Love the content, bro. Appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? Welcome to the chat. You know what I'm saying? How you doing today?
Indicating any damage compensation has been issued or any settlement being reached.
I have to read a statement from Match.com. It says, quote, "What happened to Mary Kay Beckman is horrible, but this lawsuit is absurd. The many millions of people who have found love on Match.com and other online..."
Yeah, I kind of think like suing the dating site is kind of crazy, but if there's a bag to be had, my baby, go get it. All right?
Dating sites know how fulfilling it is, and while that doesn't make what happened in this case any less awful, this is about a sick, twisted individual with no prior criminal record, not an entire community of men and women looking to meet each other.
While Match is generally considered to be one of the safer dating apps out there, the case of Wade Mitchell Ridley goes to show that even the boomer dating sites can contain vicious killers.
True.
We begin tonight with the search for a killer.
Bro, Plenty of Fish, that was like the first dating website that I heard people talking about, like, yo, you get on Plenty of Fish, get you some girls, you link up with them, you know, go take them to GPS Pound Town, you know what I'm saying? That was the first, but you know me, I was relationship guy, all right? You know, like, we don't do dating sites.
27-year-old
Gonna have to catch me outside.
and well-known boxer in the area was found murdered in his apartment last night.
Our next story is a disturbing example showcasing what happens when malicious criminals take advantage of one's romantic desires, allegedly using the Plenty of Fish dating app to lure a man into a deadly robbery. This story begins in 2016 with 27-year-old single father Adam Hilaire. Adam was an amateur boxer and MMA fighter hailing from Auburndale, Florida. When Adam wasn't training for combat sports, he was spending time raising his 5-year-old daughter, Legea. Adam was described as a hardworking man and good father. And being a single father,
Dang,
one might imagine that Adam was looking for new romantic partnership, which brings us to the summer of 2016. In August, Adam began using the Plenty of Fish dating app, seeking out would-be single women in his area that might be interested in going out on dates. And that's when he connected with 18-year-old Haley Bustos. Adam and Haley would chat for some time, and feeling a bit of chemistry, eventually the two agreed to go on a date and meet in person.
See, now there's a famous philosopher that would have warned my guy about this. His name is Dr. Ruben.
Person. On August 18th, Adam and Haley would meet up at a local bowling alley, and apparently the date went well. After spending a good deal of time at the bowling alley, Haley Bustos actually allowed Adam to take her to his home afterwards. The two would spend some time there until late in the evening when the date concluded, after which Adam dropped Haley off at an apartment she was staying at. Sometime after being dropped off, Haley reportedly texted Adam, "I had a good time and would like to see you again." It's a message that implies that Haley Bustos enjoyed her date with Adam and was possibly interested in going forward romantically. But in all reality, this was likely Far from the truth. After being dropped off at the apartment, she enters where 3 associates are waiting for her return. These men were 26-year-old Andre Warner, 26-year-old Joshua Ellington, and 31-year-old Gary Gray. Once inside,
Hold on.
Associates are waiting for her return. These men were 26-year-old
26,
Andre Warner, 26-year-old
26,
Joshua Ellington,
31,
and 31-year-old
we too old for this, man. Come on, there's no way, bro.
Gary Gray. Once inside, Haley Bustos allegedly begins a conversation with these individuals detailing various expensive items she noticed inside of Adam Hilaire's home.
See, nope, nope, see, can't do it. No, sir. Listen, one time, somebody came in my crib and did it. Oh my goodness. Oh, you're done, big fella. You're not coming back. All right, you're done.
Home. Items including gaming consoles, multiple televisions, jewelry, liquor, and cash. And it's at this point where all 4 individuals allegedly hatch a plot to go back to Adam's apartment and rob him for his possessions. In the early morning hours of August 19th, Haley Bustos, along with Andre Warner,
Haley Bustos. That was it. Listen, the name would have been like, I don't know about this one, all right?
Josh Ellington and Gary Gray get in their vehicle and head to Adam's apartment, a location that Haley Bustos was very familiar with as she was just there hours prior. Upon arrival, the crew parks their vehicle outside of Adam's apartment. Haley Bustos and Josh Ellington stay in the car to keep watch while Andre Warner and Gary Gray proceed to break into Adam's home.
Was good.
Once inside, Adam Hillary is detained and held at gunpoint while the house was pilfered. Fearing for his life, he pleads with the burglars, begging them not to kill him. He explained that he had a 5-year-old daughter to raise and that they could take whatever they wanted, just begging for them not to kill him. But unfortunately, these callous criminals cared none for the man's circumstance, and after robbing him blind, Andre Warner forced Adam to his knees and shot him in the back of his head,
Oh my, listen, you took the stuff. I mean, listen, never mind. We're not getting banned today, ladies and gentlemen. Not gonna happen.
Execution style, killing him in cold blood. After the murderous plunder, the men hurriedly exited Adam's apartment and piled into the vehicle along with Joshua Ellington and Haley Bustos. The group fled the scene with just a few $100s of stolen property, at the expense of Adam's life. Adam's belongings were sold off by the group in the following days, with Haley Bustos reportedly getting a $50 cut for her involvement in the heist.
You just got a man killed for $50. Shout out to Joe for the raid. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Joe for the raid. You just got a man killed for $50. What Jay-Z say? Streets is done, all right?
Heist. But these criminals wouldn't get away with their brutal crime, as sometime later,
she literally got enough money to go get her feet done. That's it. That's it. She's done.
Adam's roommate would discover his body, notify police, and a murder investigation was opened. Initially, police had no suspects, but a break in the case came by way of Haley Bustos. According to police, in the weeks following the crime, Bustos was involved in a separate burglary. Witness testimony led to Haley being identified as a suspect, and she was subsequently arrested and linked to the Adam Hilaire murder case. After a bit of questioning, detectives then learned of her 3 accomplices, and the whole group was now made to face justice in a court of law. In court, prosecutors alleged that Haley Bustos participated in what's known as a honey trap, essentially using the Plenty of Fish app as a means to get close to Adam Hillary, then scouting out his home with the intention to later rob him with the help of Warner, Ellington, and Gray. As a matter of fact, in court, Haley Bustos would testify that a friend had told her to download these dating apps because they could be used to lure in men and exploit them for money. And with that testimony in mind, it does kind of seem like we're dealing with a honey trap situation here. The first of this my
guys and my girls, all right? Listen, y'all, look. I know you see the baddies on IG. You see where the baddies at. You want to get on the apps and swipe right. If you don't run into them at the mall, the grocery store, you know what I'm saying, the local, baseball game, it just ain't meant to be. All right? At least meet them in person. Okay? Because, boy, ain't no way.
Plenty of Fish posse to be convicted was Andre Warner, the man who murdered Adam execution style. In December of 2021, Andre Warner was found guilty of first-degree murder and was sentenced to serve life in prison, with the jury recommending the death penalty. Josh Ellington and Gary Gray are both facing first-degree murder charges. Their cases are still ongoing. Haley Bustos, the seemingly innocent young woman who reached out to Adam on Plenty of Fish back in 2016, was recently found guilty and accepted a plea deal. Snitching on her associates kept...
No, because none of this would have happened if it wasn't for... Man, listen, I'm done. I can't do it.
her from getting life in prison. In early 2022, Haley was sentenced to serve 25 years for her involvement in the...
Okay, all right, you know what I'm saying? Okay, 25 is... Okay, all right, you know what I'm saying? I was about to say, boy, because if she took a plea and got out in like 6, you're done. Because this would have never happened if it wasn't for you.
Criminal robbery conspiracy that led to Adam Hilaire's death.
Haley Bustos was charged with conspiracy to commit armed robbery, and theft. She has been sentenced to 25 years in prison.
While it's reassuring to see that the despicable individuals involved are facing serious time for their crimes, this entire situation is heartbreaking to say the least. This Plenty of Fish murder conspiracy is a case that shows how easy it is for malicious criminals to take advantage of individuals using romantic partnership as bait. What first appeared as an innocent young woman on Plenty of Fish turned out to be a duplicitous con artist with murderous associates. Their despicable deeds and petty greed left an innocent man dead and his 5-year-old daughter fatherless.
It's pointless, to have that in your heart, to want to be violent and kill someone.
This is Polk County, Florida.
One that's, I don't get it. I don't understand how people can even want to be like that.
All men, young men, type of men that you say
the grinder
you find attractive.
Oh man.
All now dead, Stephen.
Our final story is without a doubt the most disturbing example of a dating app being used to facilitate criminal activity. It's a harrowing tale that showcases what happens when a serial killer uses Grindr and gay escort sites to lure in victims. The central figure of this gruesome tale is a British man living in London named Stephen Port. Born in February of 1975, Stephen has been described by many throughout his life as a loner. Folks that knew him personally say he was bullied growing up and always had trouble fitting in. When Stephen became an adult, the man was said to have a immature and childlike personality, with a neighbor reporting that they saw him playing with children's toys as a grown man on numerous occasions. In his early...
Okay, well, depend on what the kid like toys was. I know people who got like figurines and people still play video games. Some people look at that as like a kid thing. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that's wrong to play with toys, all right? Because me personally, I play with toys. They just sell them in not kid stores. Oh, man. I'm joking. Unless, you know what I'm saying?
20s, Stephen would come out as gay, further ostracizing him from society. He then moved out after getting a steady job as a chef for a catering company. From that point on, Stephen would live alone in an apartment located in the Barking suburb of London, a location that approximately 8 years later would become the headquarters for a sexual deviant and serial killer. Let's flash forward a little bit. It's now 2014 and Stephen Port is 39 years old. As the man had grown older, he apparently became sex obsessed and compulsively used dating apps and escort services like Grindr, Sleepy Boy, Fit Lads, and Gaydar to obtain sexual encounters with
that last one's the actual app? That's crazy.
Young gay men in their early 20s.
Hold on. Never mind, Ashley. We'll talk about that later.
Around this time, Steven maintained an athletic physique in an effort to attract these men and sported a blonde toupee to make himself appear younger than he actually was. In Steven's dating app profiles, he would completely fabricate information about himself to make him appear more interesting or exotic than he actually was. From styling himself as an Oxford University graduate to a special needs teacher to a Royal Navy soldier, Steven made up many falsities in an effort to hook up with young men. While what he was doing on these apps was indeed very questionable, it wasn't illegal or anything. But what we soon find is that Steven Port had criminal fantasies that he was willing to act on. On June 19th of 2014, Steven Port makes a 999 emergency call. Remaining anonymous, he explains to dispatchers that while driving, he had witnessed a drunk young man collapse in the street and have a seizure near the East Block apartments in Barking. Sometime after Steven's call, emergency services arrive at the complex specified by the caller and find the body of 23-year-old fashion student and escort Anthony Walgate.
What area? Barking. He looks like he's collapsed or had a seizure or something. He's always just drunk. But, yeah.
Authorities would pronounce the young man dead shortly after arriving. A bottle of the party drug GHB was found on his person, and the cause of death was ruled as an overdose. Police didn't think there was any foul play here. They felt that this man was abusing the GHB drug, had an overdose, and died from it. Simple as that. They didn't think anything was up with this. However, what authorities didn't realize at the time was that Anthony Walgate was an escort that Steven Port had hired from an escort site called SleepyBoys.com. Steve had then lured the young man into his apartment with the promise of 800 pounds for his services.
Oh, now when he said 800 pounds, was he talking about money or was he talking about... Hey, nah, son, this is crazy.
Only to spike his drink with a lethal amount of GHB, sexually assault his unconscious body, and murder him by way of...
Oh, this man is Jeffrey Dahmer. Boy, you're done.
Drug overdose. Steven then moved Anthony's body to the street and allegedly planted the drug on his person to trick police. He then fed emergency dispatch the bogus story about him randomly passing this collapsing man on the street, and nobody was the wiser. While police didn't initially find the death of Anthony Walgate suspicious, a later tip provided by a friend of Walgate would actually draw Steven Port into question here. This friend explained that he knew Anthony Walgate and knew that Walgate was going to an apartment owned by a man named Steven Port the evening of his death, as Walgate had discussed this meetup with the friend before heading over. Police then pieced things together and realized that Steven Port was actually the individual that made that emergency services call, which they considered quite suspicious. On June 26th, Steven Port was arrested and charged with perverting the course of justice, accusing him of essentially lying to them about what had happened. He's then interrogated by detectives. They want the real story of what happened that night. So Steven whips up a story that's
Hold on, what? Okay.
They want the real story of what happened that night. So Steven whips up a story that's extremely charitable to himself. Steven would admit that he knew Anthony and did indeed have him over at his apartment the night of his death. But Steven spins the narrative, claiming that he actually had left home at some point to go to work, leaving Walgate in his apartment, only to then return from work early in the morning to find that Anthony Walgate had apparently taken GHB on his own accord and overdosed in the process. He frames this in a way that suggests the only reason he lied about the circumstances of him knowing Anthony Walgate was because he was afraid that police would implicate him for a murder that he didn't commit. And well, police would believe Steven's story, considering the death of Anthony Walgate simply to be a freak accident of sorts. Steven would be released on bail and would later have to go to a low-stakes hearing for perverting the course of justice. We'll get to that hearing later. Steven had successfully gotten away with a brutal essay and murder, and once he realized how easy it was for him to get away with these heinous crimes, he continued committing them, delving deeper and deeper into criminality. He would continue using apps and hookup services to commit more essay and murders over the next year. His next victim would be Gabriel Cavari. Stephen had reportedly connected with Gabriel Cavari using the Grindr dating app, and the two would talk online for some time, with Gabriel eventually moving into Stephen's apartment in August of 2014. However, this move would prove to be a lethal mistake, as just 5 days after moving into Stephen Port's apartment, Gabriel...
What? No, back up.
...apartment...
Hold on.
The two would talk online for some time, with Gabriel eventually moving into Stephen's apartment.
See, bruh, I don't know whose household they was raised in to be like, yo, you could talk on to somebody on the internet. Y'all hit it off. You move in. They skipped they skipped everything. Okay. There's no way.
In August of 2014. However, this move would prove to be a lethal mistake, as just 5 days...
If it didn't click to being a lethal mistake, when you said, yo, I'm about to move into this person's crib I met on the internet, hey, man.
Days after moving into Stephen Port's apartment, Gabriel would become his next victim, with Stephen...
No, it wasn't 5 days. It said they talked for some time. But 5 days after moving in is when the incident happened.
Drugging the young man with GHB, committing SA, and murdering him. This time, Stephen would place his victim's body at a graveyard approximately 500 meters away from his apartment. Gabriel Cavari's body was discovered sometime...
And you know the crazy part is, my man been using all these apps. He finally got somebody to move in. My man had, Doonies on the plate. And you got rid of the Doonies. What's wrong? What's wrong with this man, bro? What is wrong with him?
Later by a woman walking her dog. Police considered the death an overdose and made no arrests in relation to the circumstance. On September 18th, Stephen made contact with a 21-year-old chef named Daniel Whitworth on a Grindr-like dating site. Stephen used the same devious tactics he had used on his previous victims with Daniel, and just 2 days after the men had connected, Daniel Whitworth was found dead, his body discovered by the same dog walker in the same spot in the same cemetery. Now, if you already thought Stephen Port was a piece of shit, get a load of what he did with Daniel Whitworth. In an effort to keep law enforcement off of his trail, Stephen authored a fake suicide note, planting it on Daniel's person before dumping his body in the cemetery. This fake note claimed that Daniel's reason for supposedly killing himself was because he had killed Gabriel Cavari, and he couldn't live with the grief. Remarkably, this disgusting manipulation worked on police, and his...
Yo, fire these police right now. They ain't doing enough. They ain't doing no good job, brother. They're done. They're done.
His death wasn't ruled a homicide. Stephen Port had gotten away with his third disturbing dating app murder. But in March of 2015, Stephen would have to take a bit of a hiatus from his crime spree, as he was made to appear in court for that old perverting the course of justice charge that he got back in 2014. In court, Stephen pled guilty to perverting the course of justice in the case of Anthony Walgate's death. He was sentenced to serve 3 months in jail and was released in June several months later. It's frustrating to think that this murderer was literally inside the court building, but nobody knew what the hell was going on, so he's just getting punished for some bullshit charge related to lying to the cops. He was right under their noses the whole time. So after getting out of jail, months later in September of 2015, Stephen Port would strike again, drugging and killing another victim. This individual was 25-year-old forklift operator Jack Taylor. After doing his crime, Stephen would again dump Jack's body in the same cemetery he had dumped the others. By this point, I'm sure you're slamming your head against your keyboard out of frustration, furious at the idea of police not being able to find anything suspicious about 3 bodies found at the same place in a cemetery. It's ridiculous that a murder case hadn't been opened by this point. Stephen's preferred graveyard location for dumping his bodies was purposeful, though,
and nobody even
as these
seen
urban London cemeteries were frequent hangout spots for the homeless and drug addicted. It wasn't uncommon to stumble across a dead body in such a location, be it death from exposure or overdose. Perhaps this narrative played a part in law enforcement's apparent apathy in regard to the graveyard deaths. But the death of Jack Taylor would be different, as it served to break the cycle of Stephen Port's vicious killings. Jack Taylor's family couldn't imagine the young man stepping anywhere near a cemetery in the late hours of the night. The circumstances surrounding his death made no sense, and they were immediately suspicious that he was murdered. So the family
Steven,
would
that's
press
crazy.
law enforcement to scan the area for CCTV footage. Perhaps a surveillance camera had caught Jack on camera that night. After a bit of digging around, CCTV footage was found. On the date of his death, Jack Taylor was caught on surveillance camera footage meeting up and walking with a tall, blonde-haired man. The individual was immediately named as a person of interest in regard to the death of Jack Taylor.
Yep,
And an
you're
appeal
finished,
to the
big
public
fella.
was made, asking for people to help identify who he was.
Now imagine the police that got the report like, okay, let's see who this guy is. And you realize this is the same guy you gave the perversion of justice to before where you found a GHB body. You're done. After that, it should be a layup, all right, to the rack.
This man would soon be identified as none other than Stephen Port. And in October of 2015, he was arrested under suspicion of murdering not just Jack Taylor, but Gabriel Cavari, Daniel Whitworth, and Anthony Walgate.
Yeah, he's done.
Thanks to the
How much time y'all think he
collaboration
about
of
to
the
get?
4 victims' families and witnesses coming forward, he was implicated in all 4 murders. This grinder spree killer had finally been caught and was to face justice for his repulsive.
I'm not gonna lie, I never used the dating app, but I could see how like if you it's safer, right? Because like at least who you meet up is in a record somewhere. Like who you messaged recently might be in records somewhere, as opposed to like, I mean, I guess you got cell phone records if you call or text somebody, but you know, I don't know. It might be a good thing, you know, that people.
Of crimes. While in court, Stephen would plead not guilty and maintain that he had nothing to do with the murders. While being questioned, Port would outright deny putting any bodies in any graveyard and denied ever giving anyone GHB.
The other 3 were all found just over the road in the churchyard, or just beside the churchyard in that area that we've discussed.
Yeah.
Propped up against a wall, short distance from your house,
He's
all
done.
again with high levels of GHB in them, enough to kill them.
I said,
You know what,
I've
play
been
the rest
to
of the
nothing
videos. I
about
see the clear B story.
how they come to be.
Stephen could deny and lie all he wanted to, but the evidence discovered spoke for itself. In the wake of his arrest, an investigation of his laptop found disturbing searches inquiring how to commit SA and other GHB related.
Yo, typing in how to commit. Oh my God. This can't be real, bruh. We are actually living in a simulation. It gotta be. There's no way. There's no way.
Related searches. It was also discovered that all 4 victims had traces of Stephen's DNA, and witness testimony would corroborate.
Chat, what's the craziest thing that y'all searched? It's a safe place. Come on. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead. What's the craziest thing y'all searched?
That Stephen Port did indeed know all 4 of his victims.
I remember when they was like, back in high school, I remember somebody was like, yo, if you search the word bombs in Google, the FBI would come. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying I tried it. All I'm saying is, I don't know how true that claim was that they made. That's all I'm going to say.
Victims. And all of this combined with the fact that these dead bodies were found less than
Batty Hub. Hey, getting off Batty Hub in my chat is nasty work. If y'all don't know what Batty Hub is, that boy Gerald is a serial subscriber to that.
than half of a mile away from Stephen Port's apartment. There was no denying it.
Hold up, you said Holla be searching hentai in Google? That's not even a crazy search. Not saying I've searched it before. I'm just saying I don't think that's like that crazy of a thing to search.
He was guilty. In November of 2016, Stephen was found guilty of all 4 murders and was sentenced to serve life in prison.
Okay.
He's currently held at Her Majesty's Prison in Belmarsh, a prison so infamous that is sometimes referred to as Britain's Guantanamo Bay.
Whoa.
No better place for this
Put that
heartless
boy-
monster to spend the rest of his days. In the wake of Stephen Port's conviction, there have been many investigations
I'll be
looking
looking at
into police
R34.
mishandlings of these
What would
murder
the internet
cases.
be without R34?
After all,
Come on,
law
what are we doing?
enforcement really did screw up at every turn here. At one point, 17 police officers were facing disciplinary action for failing to interview key witnesses and improper evidence collection techniques. However, no action was ever taken. Some family members have received monetary payouts in civil claims court related to the police mishandling, but no money will ever heal the scars created by the loss of their loved ones. More so than the other two stories discussed today, this one showcases the damage a monster can cause when given the seemingly limitless victim pool that is the world of dating apps. Using these services, Stephen Port was able to systematically abuse and kill young men with disturbing efficiency. Thankfully, with the help of family, police finally woke up and put an end to the madness. And with that, those were the monsters of online dating. Let me know what you...
Yo, no, I ain't gonna lie, bro. Look, I never trusted nobody enough to date online. Never in my life did I say, let me get a random person out here. You know what I'm saying? Bro, listen, I done seen some things in this world. I done heard some things, okay? I am not, no. Listen, if I can't see you with my eyeballs, I'm okay. I don't need to go searching no deeper, okay? I don't know. Some people live in like rural areas. Just get your Riz up. Now you're probably like, there may not be girls your age in your area. You know what I'm saying? You like, all of them got rizzed up by the football players. That's fine. Okay? But you know what? Pam, the grandma, well, not the grandma, yeah. One of the mothers in your neighborhood, she married to old Joe. But Joe used to work in the factory, all right? My man, his body's going away, you know what I'm saying? She gonna need a little bit of excitement in her life, all right? That's where you come in, you know what I'm saying? Then you take the bag he left for her, and you live happily ever after with her. We got options out here, chat, you know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying.